Welcome back to my stand review series, guys. I'm going to be reviewing the 2020 version of the miniseries of The Stand, which is based on Stephen King's book. And as I mentioned in last video, I'm going to be describing episode per episode the way they are, and then after that I'm going to be making comparisons on the book, which, as I also mentioned, is the best book that I've ever read thus far in my entire life. I was extremely impressed with the book. And like I said before as well, I was worried about the show, but after episode one, this show actually blew me away in its production value and how they're making it. It's really, really well done and extremely impressive. So, in this one, we start off with another kind of sanctuary in some store, warehouse kind of thing, where these people are in tents and camping out and making food and taking shelter, essentially. And they're on their way to Boulder. So in this one, we're introduced to this woman named Nadine Cross. She's played by Amber Heard. And we're introduced to Larry Underwood. Larry Underwood. And he is played by Jovan Adepo. Really great actor. At least I recognize him from Overlord and Fences. That's right, he was in Fences as well. They're taking shelter and they're heading to Boulder. Now, this show basically gives the backstory of Larry as well as this guy named Lloyd. And Lloyd is a criminal who has recently been taken to jail. This is right before the plague started, or like right on the cusp of it, going airborne and bringing the country down basically. And he was robbing a convenience store with his friend named Poke. And Poke is a little bit of a psychopath, and he shot the whole place up, and then they were taken down by cops. But Lloyd was arrested and he's taken to jail. Larry is a former musician, so this goes 5 months prior to the plague beginning, and he's a upcoming musician. He plays rock. He plays in bars and venues here and there wherever he can. He has this guy after him because of apparently him stealing a song. So this guy keeps busting up his shows and just showing up out of nowhere and acting like a complete psychopath, basically. Basically, that's what he's been doing until the plague hits and his mother gets sick, and he obviously loves his mother, but they don't have like the tightest relationship because of all his gigs and all his shenanigans, and he's into drugs. He's always sleeping with different women, and he doesn't have that closeness with his mother that he should, or wishes he does anyway. And his mother's really, really sweet too. The way they portray Larry's mother, it's kind of sad, the situation, especially when shit hits the fan and she starts to get sick. I love, again, the way this show does the neck thing. It's the swollen necks. It's really, really brutal. When he goes to see her in the hospital, it's really sad because everything is in absolute catastrophe, and nobody has any control over anything. It's like it's one of those plagues that you catch the sickness and you're done in 3 hours, kind of thing. That's a scary plague, if you ask me. And we follow him, and then we follow him to the fall of America, kind of thing. He's walking around New York. His story takes place in New York, and he's running into very random individuals, including one older guy who just came out of the hospital and is eating a bag of chips and says he wants to fulfill his lifelong dream of running around the Yankee Stadium baseball diamond naked and then jerking off on home plate. So that's his life goal. And and then Larry's just, whatever, knock yourself out, dude. And then Larry runs into this woman named Rita. She's played by Heather Graham. Heather Graham looks absolutely amazing. All right, I think she's 50 when this show was filmed, and she's gorgeous, like real hot for her age. He meets her in a park, and she's very, like, she's a divorce. I don't know if she's a divorcee, but at least if she's not, her husband's dead by now. And she's very, like, kind of, you could say, looking for life and energy. She's kind of an energetic woman, and she finds companionship in Larry. So they form this bond. They get romantic. They're kind of trying to survive the city together. They run into this guy who offers Larry $1 million so he can have 15 minutes with Rita, and he's like, "Fuck that, go away." And then they're chased down, and we go to like the whole, rebel scenario where you get these guys with shotguns chasing after them. They get into the sewers. They're hiding out in the sewers. There's a scene where Larry has a flashback with his mother's corpse, and you see rats coming out of his mother's mouth. It's disgusting. Horrible stuff. This is definitely a horror show. So if you can't handle that that aspect of it, I wouldn't go near it. But basically follow them, and it kind of leads to a grim ending. I'm not really gonna say exactly what happens, but at the end of the episode with them kind of leads to an ending of the episode that's a little bit grim. As for Lloyd, the destruction of the country is going on while he's in jail, and he's basically locked in a cell, and he has a cellmate, and the cops are not taking any of them seriously, especially Lloyd, being that he was involved in an extremely violent robbery, even though he wasn't responsible for shooting anybody. The cops just don't take any of them seriously. Even one is transporting a body on a gurney, and the police officer just grabs some slime off the guy's face and throws it onto Lloyd's face, and horrendous stuff. Lloyd asks for water, and the cop's like, "You got water?" And he points at the toilet. And yeah, Lloyd's basically just locked in there with some guy that's dying, and doesn't know whether he's gonna. Well, assumes he's gonna catch the plague, obviously, but doesn't know for sure exactly. And he's left there to rot, and he's left there to die, and then he eventually tries to capture some rats to eat, and eventually has to snack on the cellmate, which died of a fatal disease. So it gets grim. And at the end of the episode, he's visited by a very mysterious man who calls himself Flag. And Flag is played by Alexander Skarsgård, and he basically offers salvation to Lloyd so long as Lloyd basically gives him his soul. So he's asking for Lloyd to like obey his every command, not ask questions and stuff like that. And if he promises to do so, he'll open up the cell gate and take him to, eat and whatnot. Uh, at this point, Lloyd is so distraught that he even thinks he's hallucinating. And he's just so... Nat Wolff, who plays Lloyd, I don't know if I mentioned that or not. If not, I forgot. Nat Wolff, who's a great actor. He's from Palo Alto, Paper Towns, and Fault in Our Stars. He's a side character in that. It's really good, and he's great in this. And he really loses it. And I like that scene between him and Randall, the way they bantered back and forth, because Nat Wolff's character Lloyd is really losing his mind, and like you can see the desperation is in his eyes, the same way the book pretty much portrayed his character, especially in that scene in jail when he's basically starving himself to death, unintentionally, obviously. So those are the two backstories with the characters. You get some stuff going on in Boulder. We're introduced to a character named Nick, who is a mute and wears an eye patch. And we don't see Mother Abigail in this episode like we did in the last one, but we hear her because they're taking care of her in Boulder or something like that. We spend a little bit more time with Harold when Larry comes into town, and he introduces himself to Harold. And so we get a little bit more of Harold, just like we did in the last episode. And other than that, that's pretty much how this show develops. It's back and forth between Larry and Lloyd's backstory before they show up before Lloyd meets Randall and before Larry shows up in Boulder. As well as Nadine's character, who also, she is being responsible for this little kid named Joe, and this little kid named Joe is also a mute. He doesn't talk throughout this entire episode, and Nadine is basically his caregiver. So we got Nadine, who is with Larry, so Larry and Nadine are together in Boulder, but it shows Larry how he got there, kind of thing, before he met up with Nadine. We're not said how they met, but we know that they're together in Boulder. So that's that episode. And now I'm going to get into a little bit of book comparisons. So, Nadine in the book has black hair with white streaks, and that's for a reason. So the fact that they just made Amber Heard's character playing Nadine just regular blonde, whatever, it is what it is. But I definitely find that strange because like I said in the book, they kind of make it a reason why she has black hair with white streaks, especially towards the end. But I really wonder how they're going to go with that. I like how they switched Larry Underwood. I can't even say his last name, to a black character, and I think that's a really great choice because it really fits his character a lot better. He's this like blues rock musician, and he just fits the character much more believable, especially with his musician kind of style in the book. He just seemed like this druggy, like loser kid who played some rock and roll in LA sometimes. This guy seems a lot more like passionate and like chill. He has like the chill vibes. I really like this guy. I really like this version of Larry in the show. And his mother in the book is sweet. In the show, she's even more sweet. So in the show, when she has her death, it's really impacting the way they filmed it. So this version of Larry, I really like. Joe, he's supposed to be this psycho little kid. Like he's way too tame in this show. In the book, he's this little like pit bull that carries a knife everywhere and just wants to like murder everybody with gritted teeth. And in this one, he's just some little shy kid who doesn't talk. So meh on him. Lloyd, definitely pictured different on the book. Definitely pictured a lot more badass and aggressive and scary in personality. Not to say that this guy's not scary, but he's more timid for sure than what I pictured in the book, and he's more kid looking. Like Nat Wolff kind of has a slight baby face to him. So he's definitely a lot more youthful and a lot more immature looking than I pictured the Lloyd that I pictured in my head in the book. I purposely avoided looking up the cast in this show while I was reading the book because I love reading books and imagining characters in my head. And then if I go to the show and I look up the cast, then it's gonna jade my book experience completely. So I never, ever, ever do that because, Heather Graham, for example, playing Rita. If I knew Heather Graham was playing Rita in the show, then I would be reading the book completely different because all I would be picturing is Heather Graham. She's another one, Rita's character in the book. I pictured a little bit older. And I'm going to say a woman in her 50s, but Heather Graham is in her 50s. So technically that's accurate, but Heather Graham just looks so hot in comparison to this like midwife that I was picturing in the book. This I don't know, I just pictured her a lot more mature looking in the face kind of thing, not youthful and bubbly like Heather Graham was in this show. Another guy that I pictured totally different, Randall Flagg. While I was reading the book, I pictured him as a black guy, not a white guy, and I pictured him in contrast with Mother Abigail and Randall Flagg. I pictured both of them like Mother Abigail. They mentioned black in the book, but Randall Flagg. That's like the whole time I was reading the book, I was picturing Idris Elba. And Idris Elba, actually, if he was cast in this show as Randall Flagg, I think would be amazing. Not that Alexander Skarsgård does a bad job. I think he does great too. Very sinister in personality. But Idris Elba would kill as Randall Flagg. He would be amazing with the jean jacket and the cowboy boots and the pins that he uses on his jacket. He would be amazing. So again, it's just reading a book. You picture a character in one way, and then you watch a series, and you're like, oh, I didn't picture him that way, but that's cool too. Lloyd being the best, or sorry, not Lloyd, Larry being the best example. Loved Larry Underwood in the book. Love this Larry Underwood. Okay, I can't say Underwood, even though they're so different. And I did think that I do like the way they did it in the show. They take Lloyd to jail first and then they flash back to the robbery. I thought they were going to do the robbery first and kind of open up the show that way and then take him to jail. So I thought they were going to do it the opposite way, but they switched it up. It works. I love how they do the guy eating the chips, straight from the book. As soon as he shows up, I knew exactly who he was and I knew exactly where it was going. And when he runs into the woman in the park, I'm like, okay, I know exactly where this is going to. And they really play that out great. They go play by play exactly how it happened in the book. Except I remember them going into tunnels in the book instead of sewers. I faintly remember the guy offering the $1 million for the girl, but I don't recall it being as big of a chase scene as it was. And I definitely don't recall that vision that Lloyd had in the sewer with the mother with the rats coming out of her mouth. I don't remember that. So if it was in the book, I missed that part. But regardless, it was so good that they added that into the show. Absolutely loved it. Loved the hospital scene with the mother, Larry's mother. Nick is all right. I didn't really have like a Nick just always seemed like an average kid to me, so no matter how they portrayed him in the show, the only thing maybe is I pictured him with shorter hair, but the eye patch was accurate. Him being mute is accurate, obviously, and I just they didn't show hardly anything with his character yet, so his character is yet to come, obviously. But the best thing about this show easily is Rita and Larry's interaction and relationship throughout New York while they're surviving together, right to the end where he goes to bed and she attempts to off herself. Of course, I don't know if they're going to show her dead in the next episode. We'll have to see. But she definitely started to swallow those pills. So they made that a big deal in the book. So I'm sure they're going to make it a big deal in this show as well, especially with Larry's loss and everything. Larry introducing himself to Harold was pretty cool too. I think the only thing that the only character that I don't think they translated that well is Joe. He's the only one that I would have the biggest complaints on with the change up because in the book he's just so psychotic, and this one they just make him some tame kid that doesn't even need to be there necessarily, unless they do something with him later on in the show. We'll see, but they're just kind of throwing him away at this point. I feel anyway. So that's it. That's all I got. So I'm not going to make this go too long. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more next time. Highly, highly, highly recommend reading the book if you have not. And yeah, it's definitely awesome. I do recommend reading it before the show, but if you've already watched the show, the book is still amazing. I mean, I'm really wondering how this show is gonna hold up to the book. I'd be surprised if it does. Not to put down the show, but I'd be surprised if it does, just because the book is so absolutely incredible. But anyways, subscribe to Morgan Film Fan. If you're interested, check out my other videos. Stay tuned for my stand review series, and until next time, take care and cheers.